The world's preeminent business growth expert, Jay Abraham.
Jay is not you.
Jay showing you how to find more money. He's making it rain.
This is a man that you cannot afford to be without.
1-800-88-12345. This is the ultimate entrepreneur with Jay Abraham.
Hi, it's Paul Durante. Welcome. This is exclusive. It's never been done before. It's never been heard before. It can catapult your business. 90 minutes of unabridged questions and answers from Tony Robbins and Jay Abraham. This is a high-price session held in London just a couple of weeks ago. People paid big money to be at this. Real-world solutions. Jay and Tony collaborating in a forum like they've never done before.
The larger the vision, the greater the insights. So nothing wrong with you meeting your needs, you should. But if you expand that to what drives you as a larger cause, you can get other people on that cause. And now you can have a business that grows geometrically.
Tony's about to tell you an amazing story about the very first time he worked with President Bill Clinton. He was only 31 and he was summoned to Camp David. Hang on for that. 1-800-88-12345. That's the ultimate entrepreneur hotline powered by Dial 800. Get more calls, more sales, more response. With a custom memorable number like ours from dial800.com, they have incredible customer service. Jay Abraham, Tony Robbins from London, as soon as we get back.
Welcome to Play It, a new podcast network featuring radio and TV personalities talking business, sports, tech, entertainment, and more. Play it at play.it.
The world's preeminent business growth expert, Jay Abraham. Jay showing you how to find more money. He's making it rain. 800-88-12345. This is the ultimate entrepreneur with Jay Abraham.
Hi, it's Paul Durante. Welcome back. This is exclusive, never heard before. Tony Robbins and Jay Abraham in London.
Give you a chance to ask any business question or challenge you've got and see if we can bring you a nice solution. And not only bring myself to the table, but I brought one of my dearest friends and a man I have enormous respect for. This is a gentleman who is a marketing legend. In fact, what made him a marketing legend was he really started out early in his career and decided he wanted to do something unique. He wanted to work with every different type of industry possible and see if he couldn't find unrealized, opportunities for these organizations, revenue opportunities, ways to enhance performance. And the secret to Jay Abraham is that literally all over the world, he's worked with, and we'll have to ask him how many industries it is now. I have to get it updated, but I'm sure it's more than 1,000 industries. And what he's done is cross-pollinated. He's discovered that, for example, in the real estate industry, everybody markets the same way. They put out their ads, they do open houses, and they do the same fundamental things as everyone else. And if you go to a different industry, they don't do anything like that. They do something else. They go to trade shows. And what he did best was, by working with so many different organizations, he saw that if you compete with other people and you do the same thing they're doing, and you do it better, you have a tiny competitive advantage. But if you do something no one else is doing, you have an extraordinary competitive advantage. And over the years, and literally decades for him, he's refined that philosophy, and he's the go-to guy now. And I gotta say, if you think of most of the marketing consultants that you probably don't know the name of, they've all been influenced by Jay, including myself. And so I think it'd be really cool. Now, he's a very different approach than I do in terms of language. He has 27 adjectives for every thought he's going to give you. And so he is incredibly, he's going to give you a depth that's extraordinary. I look at him as somebody that I look as a dear friend, but I also look at somebody who's a mentor to anybody in business. I think he's the premier man when it comes to figuring out how do you take unrealized opportunities, how do you maximize, because I do a lot of things in my life and I pride myself on my skill in this area, but this is all he's done for decade after decade after decade after decade, and he's always getting better. So it's a great privilege to bring out, and if you could give me a giant welcome to Mr. Jay Abraham, my dear friend. Give him a hand.
First of all, thank you for allowing me here. I'm honored.
The purpose today is really simple. Think of any business, marketing, sales type of challenge, capital raising challenge, and let's throw it out here. And I think Jay will have an answer, and I might have my 2 cents that I can add as well. And where I've got more experience, maybe I'll jump in. Where he's got more, he will, and we'll double team and see what we can do. Now, To make this effective, though, Jay's got a great format for questions, because questions can turn into 24-hour conversations.
I mean, anybody who's ever dealt with me, I'm outrageously, compassionately committed, but I don't want to tolerate confusing thinking, because if you don't know what you're trying to get to, there's no way you're going to go there. So let's think a little bit before you just ask a random abstract question. And you got to think both cause, effect. Is your marketing, is it either suck? Do you do marketing? Do you do episodic marketing? Do you know your yields on your marketing? Are you starting to get diminished returns on your marketing? Is your selling basically performing? Do you even do selling? You got all these different parthenons that are pillars you can use. Are your margins lowered? Are you becoming relegated to a commodity? Do you have a great brand that you're only using for one thing? Do you have a lot of trouble acquiring a lot of what I will call either prospects, leads, online? Do you have no problem doing that and you sell something and you have nothing else to sell? Do you have limited resources and you think it's constraining to your growth? Are you mostly a word-of-mouth, referral-generated business and you're trying to grapple with how to grow? Are you a control freak and you basically try to do it all yourself? Are you trying to follow the herd? Have you found a niche that's really cool, accidental, but you don't know how to leverage it up?
And so this is the flow. You don't need to be perfect. Just what we do want to do is think of it this way. What's a problem you have? And any problem is really just a question that's unanswered. It's that simple. From now on, when you say I have a problem, ask yourself, what's my question? And that would be the perfect thing to do this morning, because it'll change the game. So let's start right here. Give her a hand.
I'm in the residential real estate business with my husband. So when we combined, we had very well-known brands. His brand focuses on townhomes and condos on the orange line. So it's very, very specific. My brand focuses on single families and new construction. So now we're at a point where we're trying to decide whether we should rebrand and combine or keep our niches.
That's a great question. What's your view?
Well, I mean, there's a very wonderful saying, the data speaks. So I always want to look at the data. I want to look at effort versus sales versus referrals, where you're getting your highest, not just results, but optimal results. I mean, I have a friend, and I'm lucky, Tony has probably more, but one of my friends is a master at optimal clients, and he looks at a lot of different factors, and unless you look at those factors, you might get a lot of sales, but they don't produce as much profit or as much referral. I think you have to have answers to those questions before you just, try to pick up a conjecture-based. I mean, if you say that you are the prestige one, but he's generating more profit, and that profit is more sustainable, and then you also have to factor in one other question. You going to work all your life, or are you going to try to create something that's either sellable or you can leverage through others? I don't know if that's a good answer, but
I think it's a really important one. I think the most important question all of you still have to answer is, who's your ideal client? Right? Remember I told you Steve Wynn talked about the fact that he makes 80% of his money from 50,000 clients, and he has probably 5 million people that go through his casinos around the world each year. And they all play Baccarat. So it changed the buildings he built. The latest buildings are structured differently so that the baccarat tables are organized in a way where the wealthiest people feel like it's the most prestigious location in the hotel. They feel like they have a view out the window, because his goal is to keep them there as long as humanly possible, because the ratio on baccarat is the best ratio you can have as a gambler. The house still has an advantage, but it's a very small advantage. But people forget that the more you play, the more that advantage multiplies. So his goal is to get you going 24 hours a day. So once he knew that, he changed even the structure of his multi-billion-dollar hotels. Now, listen, you say get rid of the 20% and just work on the 80%. You can't do that in business, right? Because it just changes again. So he's still got to take care of the 80% of people that don't produce that much profit for him. But he's aware of it. I would say the question, you brought the more important question up that you didn't ask, which is, what is your outcome long term? Because every question you're going to answer, you got to, first, to get a right answer, you got to know what the outcome is long term. And to do that, we got to know, who are you? So who are you? Are you entrepreneurs? Are you a manager leader? Are you an artist?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because I was convinced I was an entrepreneur, but I came to this conference saying I would never sell. And the ESOP has literally changed a lot for me.
Yes.
So, yeah. And Dan's
But
also...
you didn't answer my question. Which one are you?
I think I'm an entrepreneur.
Are you? Why would you never sell then?
Why would I never sell? Because I love my people.
Yeah. You're an artist. Or you're a manager leader, but you're certainly not an entrepreneur. You are entrepreneurial. Every one of you in this room is entrepreneurial, so I'm not denigrating in any way, but I think it's really important to answer a question. It's really not a question for Jay to answer, me to answer. It's for us to answer based on who you are and what you want and what you need. Otherwise, whatever answer we give, like he'll give you, my gut is he'll give you an answer, the best entrepreneurial answer. That's where he'll lean. Because that's what he deals with primarily in his life, right? And I deal with more artists and manager leaders and entrepreneurs. I have all three of those. Because frankly, most artists don't ever sit down with them because they don't have enough money, right? You know, it's $1 million to be coached by him, right? So most artists can't afford that. For you, artist or manager leader, which one really? Which one is you live to create the impact in terms of the skill set selling? Do you live to manage the people and the systems to build this thing?
The artist.
The artist, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think so too. Do people know what's your level of performance in the United States? What are you known for?
We're number 2 in Virginia right now, but
Yeah.
we're known for growing really fast.
Yeah.
So we really started in 2011, and we're in the top.
Boom.
Yeah.
Exploded.
Yeah.
Incredible result. So if you're an artist, and what an amazing story you guys coming together. I love that. Well, what are you?
I'm an entrepreneur.
An entrepreneur.
I would
So it's a
definitely
beautiful
sell.
combination, right? So what is your goal? Are you cool with the ESOP as the way to do it because it meets both needs, or are you looking for wanting to build this brand up and sell it separately?
I think just the nature of real estate, ESOP would blend itself better than finding an outside.
Without a doubt. It's very hard to find someone to sell to. The beautiful thing about the ESOP, if you didn't get it, is if you're trying to sell your business, you've got to find someone to sell it to. Right? And then when you go to sell it to them, now you've got to disclose everything you got. They get to see underneath the kimono. And about 1 out of 3 actually close of those deals. Usually, when you're going to close a deal, unless it's a high-tech company or it's a really highly desired company, you have a hard time. You have a lot of disappointments. And they all know when you sell a company, what's going to happen. Someone's buying you because they're going to create economies of scale. They're not buying usually just to take your company and keep it as it is, so your best people are going to go. And you're caring about the people, if you sell, is going to be a challenge. He'd be willing to do that, but he's even more pragmatic. What's great about the ESOP is the entrepreneur is going to be happy. Why? He gets to sell the company, but also keeps the upside, and also is in a position where he still controls it. So love that idea. The person who's the artist is my people are totally not only taken care of and protected, but they have a level of income when they go to retire that they couldn't have any other way as long as we succeed. Statistically, ESOPs are much more successful because the employees feel vested in everything.
Yeah, great.
And so their level of success is much greater than almost any other business that's ever been measured because it's their company. It's a different component. So you can meet both your needs. So let's assume that's the direction you're going to go. Now the question becomes about the brands. And the question is, if you've got 2 successful brands, do they need to be merged?
Yep.
What's the advantage of merging them?
And also, I mean, years ago, and happens a lot, and Tony's analogy about when, you may make all your money on the 20%, but you still have to keep the payroll coming.
Exactly right.
So when I used to do Entrepreneur years ago, we had 2 distinctly parallel. We had strategies, and you got to be strategic, which I was going to say, and you got to understand what strategy is vis-a-vis tactic, and that's a longer explanation. But basically, you might have one strategy that's just paying the rent when you analyze the numbers, so you can nourish the longer, bigger payoff deals, or the vice versa. I don't know till you analyze. I mean, the data will tell you, and you'll see correlations. And then the key is, what does it tell you to do more of, less of, differently? And it's very interesting because, I mean, there are very few businesses here. And this guy that I was talking about, optimal client, he would look at, you know, who buys faster, is more profitable, refers more, demands less, more. But also, he would look at all these different data sets that you had, and he would and it tells a fabulous story. And everybody's got that. They may not use it, but everybody has it.
Yeah. And in that case, you've already merged the company. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, great. So in that case, what you're really talking about is how you deploy resources, right? How do you deploy resources? And if it was me, my gut, and this is art, not science, and neither one of us can tell you the right answer. I think what you want to do, and if it was me, I would first maximize the brands completely. If you've just recently got together and your names are there, I would become the name that you already are, become the name that you already are. I wouldn't try to mash them together because I don't see a great advantage. Because you're also not trying to sell this to somebody in the public. You're selling to those same clients. Which business is more profitable?
I would say his brand is more profitable. Mine was a little bigger, so.
But Tony?
Yes.
But you might find one that's not as profitable, but gives you great positioning. When I used to run those 18-page ads in the in-flight, they broke even. But the stature they created for the things that really made profit.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's much more, it's wonderfully, it's not as complex as it is. It's like game theory, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. And I think if you have both your names in it and you keep the brands still separate but they're merged, you get the best of both worlds. You know, Peter Guber used to tell me, he said, he became chairman of Sony, and so many things happened. He introduced me, for example, to Nelson Mandela, and I know my first meeting with Nelson Mandela is because of Peter. And Peter said, I have no illusions why Nelson Mandela is spending time with me. It's because everybody salutes the general's car. And the general's car was being the chairman of Sony, which in those days would be the chairman of Apple. He said, so I used that general's car to get what I want, and I don't have any delusions. I wouldn't separate them if it was me, but again, I don't know for sure. I would continue to maximize where they are, and now knowing that you're going for an ESOP, there's no reason to. Why not have people be solely associated? This is where I go for townhomes, and this is where I go for the high end. Meshing them together very often. The way you get a brand, by the way, let me just tell you this. Almost everybody wants to keep mashing brands together. There are very few brands on earth that have ever been successful once they start to have so many different things that they do. Very few, where you still know what the brand is. The product will often become a brand in big companies like that. Those products keep their brand. Like you're both two products to some extent, right? But if you look at, like, outside of Virgin, who else has really done that? Everybody uses Virgin, but that's like saying, you know, I'm going to smoke cigars my whole life because Richard Burns made it to 110. Life is not certain. Life is probabilities. Yeah. So if you're going with probabilities, perhaps that's not the best approach to do something. So how you get a brand is you get known for something. A niche is how you really own a brand, and you both have done that successfully. Yeah. I think it wouldn't be good to mash them together. I think it's an awesome story that there's this couple that run this together that are absolutely committed to one thing and one thing only, and that you can pass the ball. As people graduate, they can go here perhaps.
I love that.
I mean, I think that's a greater story than merging, you know, and making one name.
I actually agree, and I have one more question. How long have you been together in the business?
Since August of last year.
Okay, and did either of your respectful categories drop in performance?
Not at all.
Well, your answer is self-evident, isn't it?
That's awesome. The data shows you. Stay where you are. What's cool, you got both names. Just keep maximizing both brands for what they stand for.
And excuse me, but maximizing is we can go deep on that, but it's looking at what you're doing, what you're not doing, how much more you can do. And only because if this has relevance to everybody, we can go deeper.
Yes, let's do it.
All right, so take both of you. How do you market? How are you building your brand right now?
So for both of us, our number one source is referrals and repeat clients.
Okay, so what are all the referral strategies you're using right now?
We do client parties.
Are they situation? Are they event? Are they seasonal? Are they tied to anything?
We're actually doing them once a month now, which we just started. We used to do them every 6 months.
So let me give you just an example of maximizing. When I used to help a lot of realtors, we would throw a welcome party when somebody moved into the neighborhood, and if the seller wasn't that aligned with, it depends, whatever position we were taking, we would throw a party for the person moving in and leaving. I mean, you can take any of these categories to sublime.
Love it.
But strategy means you're doing sequentially things that advance and enhance your intended outcome all the time. And with referrals, for example, I've learned 93 separate referral generating strategies. Not just intermittent, episodic things you do occasionally, but things you do always, and there are different inflection points or different factors, whether it's to start and say, this is very cool, but it's very cool. I made a choice when I started this business, and I was going to be a referral-based, whatever you call it, practice. And the reason I did that is I could have spent all my time, my money, my effort on marketing, approving things, going out and trying to do things to promote myself, or I could take the same effort, the same intellectual capital, the same amount of time and I can invest it in more service to you. For that to work, I need my clients to know what they should expect from me, and you list all the criteria they should establish in the beginning. And if I fail to do that, I don't deserve your patronage. If I do that, I ask only two things in exchange. One is that within 6 or 9 months, and you give them a criteria of where these people could be, because most people don't know where to even look for referrals, like us trying to help you with your problem. You say, I want you to refer at least 2 equal quality people, and then show them where they might be. People who are just getting married, people that have outgrown this, people got promotion. You list it all, and I want you, your life is going to be dynamic. It's not static. You're either going to grow, you're going to regress, you're going to move, you want to go down, go up, your children, and allow us, if we serve you well. And you set the expectation.
Yes.
That's only one thing, though.
And so first of all, so everybody's referring to this. How important is the referral part of your business?
Huge.
How many of you measure the number of referrals that you get from every part of your business, whoever represents you? Raise your hand. Okay, look around the room. 10%, 90% don't. It's the most important part of your business and you're not measuring it. That's your first problem. Secondly, those who measure the amount they get, how many measure the percentage that actually end up buying? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Most of the same people, a couple people not measuring how many buying. Those two pieces, if you don't measure it, there's no possibility. Second piece is it a system? Right? If you're not measuring, it's not a system. And the system would mean multiple ways to do it. So now you think about, I hear a concept like that, which I think is brilliant, throwing the party for somebody moving in, throwing the party for somebody moving out. What you become is you become the center of the community, right? So it's wonderful to have the parties for the clients, but it's nice to have people that aren't your clients.
And I'm not trying to be argued, but I mean, you take it, the key to what you want to do is this concept of preeminence applies if you're the low end, high end, and you want to be such a value creator for everyone. Because if your attitude, it's only a matter of time before each of the categories are going to do business with you, and you're not going to wait for money to change hands for you to invest. It's very powerful. Also, I would personally want to look at referral categories because there's probably an 80-20 factor within referrals too.
I would agree. When you think about the close ratio of a referral versus the close ratio of a cold person, they're not even in the same universe, are they? Expound upon the concept of preeminence, because I think maybe not only you know this, and this is fundamental, it's something I teach in a different way, but would you expound upon that for a minute?
Sure. It's both a strategic philosophy, a philosophical strategy, and it governs pretty much everything you do. But the key points are this. Number one, you want to be seen as the only viable, most trusted advisor anybody could turn to, irrespective of whether they do business with you, number one. Number two, you don't want to wait for money to change hands. Number three, you want to always refer to them as a client, not a customer. If you're going to be a trusted advisor, you want to deal in a way where you elevate them in your mind and their mind. A customer, if you look at Webster's dictionary, is somebody who basically buys a commodity or service. So if you call somebody a customer, what you're saying is, hey, I'm no better than everybody else. I've lowered myself and relegated myself to being everyone else. Next is you've got to decide whether you're in love with your business, which most people are, or whether you're really in love with your clients. Because if you're in love with the clients, you're totally externally focused. You have their best interest at heart. And having their best interest means three things in this. I'm giving you the short one. Number one, you've got to be looking out for what their best outcome interests are. And they don't know, just like Tony said, you don't know what you're trying to do. Well, a lot of people don't know the game they're playing except for momentarily. 10 years, 20 years, they're going to be wanting a different game, and you have to be able, like you, Wayne Gretzky, to know where the puck's going to go. The next thing is you've got to use future pacing. You've got to basically have a vision for them that shows them what it will be like when they're driving home in this wonderful neighborhood and their kids are enjoying quality relationships, and they've worked hard and they've put their family into an environment it's going to appreciate, and they know that. I mean, you got to be able to know what that is relative to both sides. Next, you've got to put into language emotions that they've never verbalized before. Because when you do that, and the best way to do it, and I've got a lot of ways, but the easiest way to do it is to listen. And you got to become a great listener, and you've got to be able to really hear what you're saying in the language. But I always tell people to go to Amazon.com, look at every book that's successful in every category that's directly or indirectly related to you, and look at the title, the subtitle, and look at the positive and negative reviews, because Reviews are rendered when people are passionate, positive passionate, negative passionate, and they're not filtering. Their subconscious is speaking from the heart. When you're talking about preeminence, there's one more thing. You have a moral obligation, a responsibility, and the opportunity to not allow them to deal with anybody else, not because you hate your competitor and you want them to die, but because you know in your heart that you'll serve them better, that they'll get more authentic and beneficial value. And you have to sometimes describe and create value, because value is very different to each person. But you have every right to not want them to deal with your competitor, but not for the reasons most people think. It has nothing to do with competition. Yeah. It has to do with the fact that you know in your mind, heart, and in your practices that alternative is going to give them an inferior outcome.
I'm here to put your needs above my own. And even if you don't like what I'm going to say or do, I still have to do it. Even if you get rid of me, I'm going to do it because that's how committed. Your needs are my needs. My needs are secondary, third, or fourth. And if you can demonstrate that, not just with words, but whether you way your feet move, you will develop a level of integrity in your brand where people will come to you from all over. They will seek you out, because that is such a rare commodity in the world we're in today. Most people, you want a green suit, step under the green light.
Yep.
You know, they'll just manipulate the context or the environment or the language to try to say they're meeting your needs. And I'm very associated in the financial markets because I'm sure, I'm not a giant fan of President Obama personally, regardless of your particular politics. He's doing something really good right now, which is he's coming and saying in the 401k market, there is $17 trillion being robbed from people because in the financial markets, most people in the United States put their money in a 401k. And the fee structures that they failed to disclose there are mind-boggling. They didn't even have to disclose any form of fee until a few years ago, out of 30 years of doing this. And now they disclose them, but 2 out of 3 people, 75% of the people who are an AARP, when you ask them, are there fees on a 401k, they say there are no fees. Because the way they disclose them, you really have to have a degree in finance to be able to understand what they disclosed. And what's happening is it's ripping people off right and left, right? So there's so few fiduciaries, there's so few people that are required to put your needs ahead of them. But if you require yourself to be that way, you may lose a few sales or business, but you'll gain 100% more or 1,000% more. And when you do that over and over again, it actually creates a brand like no one else. And telling people that explicitly, and what Jay does, he tells people that explicitly, but he teaches them also to say, in our business relationship, here's what integrity looks like. I'm going to do this and this and this. I'm going to put your needs first. I'm going to do all these things. And here's what I require from my clients. Remember I said sometimes you need to fire some of your customers because they're the wrong people. They're not going to ever do it. If you can get more selective, ironically, you'll become more scarce, you'll become more unique. Scarcity produces desire. There's something interesting. Some of you went to Palm Beach, and I brought in the speaker there, and he's kind of a harsh kind of guy, but I brought him because he has a really simple description about how the reptilian brain works in marketing. And what he said is, whatever you push away, what happens? It comes towards you, right? Whatever you reject, rejection breeds obsession. So the more you chase something, the more it eludes you. The more you reject it, the more you're not interested in it, the more people seem to be more interested in what you have. It seems totally counterproductive. If what you have, though, is coveted, i.e. other people see it as scarce and unique, right? So you really want to create that. And one way to do that is like this dental referral example that you gave me. Such a beautiful example.
We had this dentist, and I got to tell you his story, but I'll give you the parenthetical comment. So years ago, he was really killing himself, making a pathetic income, and he had miserable patients that he didn't like. And they wouldn't show up, they wouldn't pay, they didn't take good oral, and he was really depressed. He was at basically the pit of despair. And he made a decision, and he decided to close that practice in that form. He took out his entire waiting room and turned it into salons, like booths at a restaurant. He took the sign off and put a sign on and said, this practice is only by referral. If you have a dental emergency, we'll try to help you, but you need to have an appointment. he went through his list and he purged out in his mind everybody who was not satisfying, fulfilling, and didn't, no pun intended, and didn't really, he felt appreciated what he was trying to do for their long-term, whether it's cosmetic or dental health. He called all the negative ones up, and he told them that he really appreciated their patronage, but he was going to refer them out. He sat down with the ones he wanted, and he told them 3 things. He was changing his pricing, and then he sat down and he established this criteria. And Chet used to call it like the buying criteria. I love that one thing. Yeah. And he'd say, look, let's talk about what you should